That's so
100%.
true, dude. That's so true. And I think once you start making money, and if you don't have a good relationship with money, it can be very hard to hire and to delegate and to spend money on your business. I'm speaking from firsthand experience. You know what I mean? But it's true. It takes money to make
my
money.
direct example of that is when the interest rate started going up of June of last year. I told the team, I'm like, guys, the winter is coming. Things are gonna get hard. You're gonna have everybody singing doom and gloom. We're doubling down. I'm opening another office. We're gonna spend more money on advertising. Like, we're going all in, and we are not participating. And we didn't.
Welcome to the Deals and Aloha podcast, where we talk about real estate deals, hope to leave a long-lasting impact on our audience, and of course, spread aloha. You can find us on all social media platforms at Kamohai and Tristyn. Please like, subscribe, and share. Let's go.
Let's go. So today we have another realtor, which is really cool because we haven't had many. But we have Dylan Nonaka, the team leader and broker in charge of Hawaii's #1 producing real estate team according to Real Trends National Rankings, the agency. Team Hawaii, you guys did 520 transactions for a whopping $197 million in volume in 2022. You were born and raised on a coffee farm in Captain Cook. That's so dope. So he's Big Island boy. And then you were also in the military. You're still in the military. So broker, military, local kid. I'm excited to hear your story. Thanks
for having me.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah. So how we usually just get this ball rolling is we ask, how did you get into real estate? Like, what's your story?
That's an interesting story. So like you said, I was in the military first, so out of high school. I wasn't sure what I was going to do in life. I was pretty sure I wasn't smart enough for college, and I definitely didn't have the money for it. And I didn't want to get stuck like working construction on the Big Island, which is like what most local boys end up doing, right? And so the third option is the military, and I never really had a plan or a dream to do that. I had an uncle, my mom's from the mainland, and he had spent like 25 years in the Marines at that point. So I was like, sounds like joining the Marines might be a good idea. So didn't really think that one through real deeply, but just kind of did it, and ended up being a really good decision for a lot of different reasons, which we can talk about. But when I came home, I started going to school at UH Hilo. I was ready for college at that point, and the military was going to pay for it. And my mom had gotten into real estate like right when I was graduating high school, so I didn't get to financially benefit from that lifestyle. We struggled kind of growing up, single mom. But when I was in college, like my first year during the summer, she was gonna get her broker's license. So she said, "Hey, you should just come with me. We can go to class together. It'd be fun. You get your salesperson's license, and I can send you referrals and stuff when people want to see property on the east side, because she was on the west side." So that's how I started my real estate journey. Was I just listened to my mom, just was a good boy, and I mean, it wasn't something I was interested in, and went to school with her. And I did it for a couple of years part-time in college, and then just decided it really wasn't what I wanted to do in life. And so I pursued some other things. I worked in like state government and politics for like 10 years. And then in 2015, I was kind of reevaluating life. And it's kind of a weird story, but I came home from a military school. I was gone for like 4 months, and my boys were young, and I was kind of not home a lot, doing what I was previously doing, and I was reevaluating what to do in life. And so I came home from this school, and I was like, I'm not going to do nothing for 30 days and just kind of chill out and hang out. And I go to lunch with my mom one day, and she's like, "Hey, you ever think about doing real estate again? I kind of want to start slowing down and move towards retirement." And I'm like, "Nah, not really. I don't think so." And then I go home that night, and I'm like watching TV with my wife, and she's like, "Hey, you ever think about doing real estate again? Like, I don't think you should get a real job." And I was like, wait, did you talk to my mom? And she's like, "No." And so I don't believe in coincidences and stuff, and these are two most important women in my life. So I was like, you know what, I'll do the classes to reactivate my license. And so again, didn't really have a plan or clear direction. It just was just something to do. And so I did it. And then once my license reactivated, I just kind of went to work full time. Just would go to the office every day with my mom, and that's kind of how it all started back in mid 2015. So it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
Nice.
Dude, I love that. So I actually went to school with my parents too, which is crazy. But it was for counseling psychology. And so like, I just know what it's like to be in like a classroom with your parents, and like, it's fun, and it doesn't happen very often. And I am a firm believer that mother knows best, because my mom was his boss, and my mom was like, "Oh, you should date him."
Our story is crazy how we met. But you're right. The two most important people in your life said the same thing on the same day. That does not happen.
No.
If there wasn't a reason behind that.
Right.
And now look at where you are. So, dude, I'm very intrigued, okay, because we're both local boys, right? And we grew up here, and a lot of times local boys do end up going the military route. I'm interested in your story on how that happened, why you chose that, and then how has that helped you in your real estate journey, if it has at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have like some inspiring story about that, because a lot of people, they kind of grow up and they see the Navy SEALs or they see the Marines or whatever, and they want to be one of them. And that definitely wasn't the case. Like, I was so ignorant. I didn't even know that there was like what the different branches were. Like, growing up here in Kona, like, small town, there is no military. Like, Oahu get plenty military, but Big Island no more. So my only real exposure was my mom's brother, who had served at that point for like 25 years. So my mom had a good opinion of the military. I wasn't super close to him. I went and spent a couple summers with him, and I knew he was there, but I didn't really know what he did. And so as soon as I started talking about it to my mom, like, I sent off, my story is, I sent off, you get those postcards when you're like 17, right? And they're like the recruitment postcards.
Yeah.
So I asked a couple of people, and they was like, "Oh, you should join the Navy or the Air Force, because those are the easier ones." And so I filled out the postcards and I mailed those away. Never heard anything back. And then my mom had mentioned to her brother that I was thinking about the military, and he's like, "If he's gonna join the military, he's got to join the Marines." So he sent a recruiter. Again, the way life works out, he was the sergeant major of the recruiting school in San Diego at the time. And so there was no recruiters on the Big Island. So he sent like a local boy from Hilo, who was a recruiter in Oahu, over to talk to me. And I was the easiest sell ever. He came over, talked to him at school. He came over to dinner at my house that night, talked to my mom. I signed up, and it was like, that was it. Like, it wasn't a long, thoughtful process, And but ended up being by far, I always go back to this, like, by far the most important kind of phase in my life, because I went from being a kid with like very little direction. Like, I grew up kind of working on a ranch. I wanted to be a cowboy, realized that wasn't really a thing where you make any money. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just didn't know I didn't want to get stuck here kind of doing what everybody else did. And so, and in joining the military, it was just, and again, this is 99, right? Pre 9/11, peace for 25 years. It was a very different world. And, I ended up in the infantry, which again isn't like what people normally recommend that you do, but for me it was a huge blessing, because that's what I joined the military to do, right? I tell people, like, hey, you want to join the military and be a mechanic, like, you like shoot guns and blow stuff up, and that's what I did for 4 years. It was super fun.
Exactly. Yep.
So but that culminated in 2011, right? I was like halfway through my enlistment in 2011. I watched the second plane hit the tower from my barracks room in California, and our company commander basically told us that day, he's like, we need to go out and zero our rifles and test our gas masks, because we'll probably be using them soon. And so that was a very big shift in the reality of what was going on in the world. And so that ended my term ended with us in Iraq. We were one of the first units to go to Kuwait. We sat in Kuwait from February to March when we started the invasion. And so I saw the whole thing. I saw the invasion from Kuwait all the way to Baghdad. I was like 2 blocks away from where the Saddam statue fell, so that was a huge experience. And definitely one of my principles in life that I always share with people is that, perspective is super important with all the things that we deal with in life. And my perspective in life now is, people are always like, oh, you're always so positive, and you always, have in a good mood. And that's a simple reason for that, is like, if my perspective is, if I'm not getting shot at, it's a good day, no matter what's going on in life, right?
Love
like
that.
Deals falling apart, people being mean to me, whatever, like none of that stuff can ever really get in my head, because, once you've been shot at, none of that stuff is important. So,
That's crazy. It is really that simple. I'm sure life-defying situations can really simplify life for you in so many ways.
Yeah, 100%. But I think it's also like not okay. So for the general public, right? Not everybody has that exact same experience that you have. But you can relate that to yourself in what your experience is.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I haven't ever been in the military, but I did go through some rough times in life and found myself in some situations behind bars. You know what I mean? And like for me, that's my perspective. My perspective is I tell myself every single day that nothing can be as bad
Where you've
as
been.
what that situation was, right?
Yeah.
Where I've been. So
Right.
everybody has something that they can utilize to gain that perspective. I think it's super important that you are you're conscious about that daily and you remind yourself, right? Like it's so easy to forget. That's why.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
love
that's
that.
super cool.
I love one of the core messages that you wrote on the sheet that says like no matter where you come from or your background, you can do something with your life. You can build a life and a business or whatever that looks like bigger and better and more abundant than you could imagine. You know what I mean? And I love that because we feel the exact same way. We both came from humble beginnings. Do you know what I mean? We worked our ass off to get where we are today, and same like you know what I mean? But it just it's proof, we're proof, you're proof that if you do the work internally and externally, you can achieve whatever it is and you can thrive here at home where we're from on these islands.
One thing that
you know?
breaks my heart about local culture, right? There's so much to love about local culture, but one of the things that like hurts me is that kids are taught like that the dream in life is you get one county job that you can work at for 30 years and then retire with like $4,000 a month. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, we always told that, right? Oh, we'll go apply at the state, like we'll get one county job. And it's like the biggest thing that we can fail as like parents and community leaders is that teaching kids to dream too small, right? We don't fail because we dream too big. We fail because we dream too small. And so that's a big message, man. I share that with all my, you know, every kid, every, you know, young person I can get a hold of is understand that, like, you know, you can do whatever you want in life. I mean, if small is what you want, that's fine. You know, I totally respect that, but don't let that be the default, you know, thing that you have to believe that that's what you have to, that's what you can achieve in life.
Yeah. I love that. I'm a firm believer that we're only limited by the information we don't have yet. You know what I mean? And we're a product of how we're brought up. So like if we're being told that's the narrative, that's all we know. You know what I mean? So it's like so important to be able to surround yourself with the right people and the right information because dude, I'm telling you, there's so many talented local people out there that don't even know it yet, right? Because they don't explore those pieces of them because we're told this is what the path is and this is the path you should go down, you know? So
But this is why we interview entrepreneurs and business owners who are local people, because we need this narrative and this message to get pushed out to our community. Because you're right, we as local people are taught, you know, you got to stay here. This is what's possible for you. You know what I mean? And if we're a product of our environment and we're a product of the information that we have. So let's get this information out there that like reach for the freaking universe, like past the stars. You know what I mean? Like, because you can achieve whatever it is. And I can't tell you how much it like pains us. The same thing that you said, but like it pains us to hear like priced out of paradise. I hate that so much because we are proof, you're proof that you don't have to get priced out of paradise. You can thrive here. Local people aren't all poor and struggling. Like, we just need more information. And if we have more information, we can make better decisions that will allow us to thrive here, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay. So you start in real estate.
2015.
You decide real estate's not what you wanted. You find your way back to real estate with that really cool story. Your mom and your wife both.
Well, let me add a piece to this, because there's another piece to this that is important. Is during this 4 months when I was away, before these conversations with my mom and my wife happened, I read the 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, and there's a lot of stuff in there that doesn't apply, but there was one part of it that really hit me hard, and I still carry to this day, is that one of the biggest fallacies that we get taught in America is that if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life, right? And the reality is that for most of us, the things that we love do not provide us with income or provide us with a lifestyle, right? Very few of us can be a professional sports player, professional musician, or I love to cook. I'm never going to be a professional cook, you know? And so if you look at business that way, you're never really going to, or your job that way, you're never going to really be happy, right? But if you look at business and your job as something that do something that will provide you the maximum time and resources to do what you love, you will become passionate about that thing, right? So when people ask me, I always give this long answer. People ask me, oh, do you like real estate? And I'm like, that's not really a relevant question to me. Like, it's not about whether I like it or like, you know, I'm not the one of those that in my bio says I'm passionate about finding your dream house in Hawaii. It's not about that, right? There's other drivers that I love that real estate allows me to accomplish. And then it makes me passionate to get up and go to work every day. So I think it's a mindset shift sometimes we got to have, is if you're always looking to do a job that you love, you're never really going to find that happiness. You really got to find something, a business, you know, something that you can do to allow you to do the things that you love to do. And that's what real estate provides for me is, I mean, I don't work past like 3 o'clock every day. I spend, you know, every afternoon with my kids doing activities. I rarely work on the weekends now. It's created a lifestyle. We can go on 2 or 3 family vacations a year. Like, if that doesn't get me excited to go to work when I'm on the days that I'm working, then I don't know what will, you know? So that's the way I look at real estate.
Right. Dude, I'm so pumped up about everything that's coming
I know.
out of your mouth right now, because it's like our truth. It's like you're us. It's so crazy. I love it.
Yeah. I think there's just times when you're talking to people that you're just so on the same wavelength, because I hear myself talking in you. You know what I mean? Some of the things you're saying is that's what I preach. That's what I talk about all the time. So yeah, it's super, super, super inspiring. So you come back into real estate and you just start crushing it.
No. Let's walk that dog.
You're like, hold up.
So tell me about that journey once you get back.
So I had somewhat of a blessed start, right? My mom and my stepdad, my stepdad had been a broker my mom ended up going to the Coldwell Banker franchise here in Kona and married the broker there. So he's my stepdad now. And so he'd been a broker for like 40 years, like longer than I've been alive at the time. And so when I restarted full time, I had them as mentors, right? They're in the office with me every day. So I really got a really solid education and people looking after me. And my stepdad is one of the most, you know, knowledgeable dudes. I still to this day, he's retired now, but can call him. And if there's a question I can't answer, he knows the answer to it. So that was how the journey started. I started in the office with them, was really there for like 3 years, about a year and a half into it. So we had a little good operation going, just regular realtors. Like, you know, I was a moderately successful young realtor doing, you know, 15, 20 transactions a year. I recognized at that point, because I was open to other ideas, right? I was open to looking at what people were doing on YouTube. I read books. I was listening to podcasts. A lot of times, especially in Hawaii, like everything else, like people just do what we do here and don't really look at how things are done in other places. And it became evident to me at that time that the era of the individual real estate agent doing every single aspect of the business was not the best way to do business, and it was probably going to end. And so we had a little family team, and that allowed us to leverage and multiply what we could do by 3. And like 2 years in, I kept trying to get my brother to get licensed, and because I just knew he was so capable and so intelligent, and he was like working for Pepsi selling soda, and I'm like, bro, it's not the highest and best use of your time, you know? And so he ended up burning the boats. And I tell this story too, like when you want to get into real estate, like he quit his job and then subsequently failed the real estate test 4 times without a job, you know, like kind of like, I mean, but you know, if you want to dabble and you want to be, you know, you just want to give it a try, you're probably not gonna make it. You got to burn the boat. So that's a whole nother life lesson. But so he ends up getting his license, and so was another force multiplier. You know, we had one more person to help kind of manage transactions, and he spent his first year just kind of helping us out with paperwork and learning the business. And so everything was humming, everything was good. You know, we probably could have done that for the next 10 years and everything would have been fine. But as life works out and fate happens, another franchise, Coldwell Banker franchise from Maui, bought the one that we had. And I'm a big vibe culture guy. We had a small office, like 25 agents, and my stepdad pretty much ran it, but we didn't own it. And immediately, like, the vibe wasn't the same. I didn't really, you know, feel the culture of the new owners and stuff. And So I had gotten my broker's license at that time, because immediately when I hit 3 years, I was like, you gotta have options, right? You gotta have options. So as soon as I qualified, I got my broker's license. So when all this all kind of happened around that 3 year mark, I started looking around and I was like, man, I don't know if this is the right place to stay. Maybe I should open a brokerage. Maybe I should go look into a franchise. Maybe just change offices. So I started kind of exploring, and I stumbled upon the EXP model, and there was none of that here on the Big Island yet, and there's a little bit on Oahu. And I mean, I won't get deep into that, but it's a very different business model from the real estate world, and that's one thing that hasn't changed is the brokerage agent relationship really has been the same for like 100 years, and nobody's innovated on it, and EXP did, and it hadn't really made it to Hawaii yet. And so when I saw that, it was like, I think I'm gonna give this a shot, because I was like, this is different, this is new. I think there's some potential here, and so that was a huge contributing factor to our success. Is that something that I go back and I tell people when they ask me, how'd you do it? How'd you grow so quickly? No matter how good of a race car driver you are, if you're in a Toyota Corolla, you're not going to beat the Ferrari, right? And so like a lot of people, and here's a takeaway I got recently, is the worst thing you can be is a level 10 player in a level 5 opportunity, right? And a lot of people are in a level 5 opportunity, even though they're a level 10 player, and they're never going to see their full potential because of whatever it is, the operating system you're using, the business model you're in, maybe the people you're surrounded by. There's all kinds of things that can be limiting factors. No matter how good you personally are, your environment matters. The operation around you matters. And so it was in 2019, I moved over. I changed brokerages at the end of 2018, and I came to EXP in 2019 was our first full year. And the first year was okay. We did like 43 transactions, I don't know, 25 million in production, something like that. And it's really been exponential. Like it's just doubled every single year upon itself. And this year probably not going to double, but I mean by mid-year this year, we did 520 transactions last year. We had done 300 by June, end of June, for the first 6 months. So we were on track. We're on track to do 600 this year. So in a market that's declined 40%, right? So that's a big thing. I remind people of, is that if you look at everybody else in the market, they're down 30, 40, 50%. We're up 12, 15%. So that's something to be proud of, and that obviously whatever we're doing is working, right? Totally. Because we're surviving and thriving in a market that most people are hurting in. So it wasn't an overnight success. I always tell people that, it happened incrementally, but you have to give it time and give yourself grace, because it doesn't happen. And the operation we have today, even though it's 4 short years later, is very different. Like, I didn't have a plan. There was no blueprint. There was no master plan. Like, we just built stuff as we needed it, and figured stuff out, and failed, and continue to fail forward, and just did stuff, and didn't worry about one of my big models in life is like, done is better than perfect, right? People so often wait for something to be perfect, the timing to be right, before taking any action, and they never make any progress because of that. So I drive my team crazy, because I'm like, jump off the cliff and then build the plane on the way down. Like, we go figure them out real fast. There you
go.
So
welcome to the club.
Love that. So, I mean, we talked a little bit about your team. What does that look like right now?
Yeah,
like,
what does your team look like?
What does your team look like? You guys are high performing right now. And one of the things that you mentioned earlier was, the days that the realtor does all of the things. You forecasted that as being gone, right? So what kind of walk us through what your team looks like?
So to start on that, the foundation for me, right, and in all business should be, you have to provide an amazing customer experience, right? If your client experience is not amazing, you won't get referrals. You're not going to have a long-term business. And I just felt like I couldn't personally service clients to that high level all by myself, and then have a lifestyle that I wanted to live. And so this is a big limiting factor for realtors. They think, I'm the only guy that can provide the amazing service that I can provide. And if you believe that, you're wrong, and you will always be small, right? And so it's an ego thing. It's hard to get over, but I've been pleasantly surprised over the years that when I hand off a past client, or I hand off a lead to somebody else, how much better somebody else does a job than I could have by myself, right? So if you're going to scale your operation and scale from doing, a decent realtor can do 25 or 30 transactions a year. You're not going to get that much time off, not going to be that fun, but you can do that. You're never going to get to 100, 200, 300 by yourself. It's just it's not possible. So there has to be some type of team. And so it started with just my brother and a couple of friends coming to EXP with me. We really just started with with culture, and we wanted to, one, be available. This is a little simple thing, but it seems silly, but this is what people expected it, right? If you call me right now, I can show you property on the Big Island in 45 minutes anywhere on the island, right? Like, because I have a teammate nearby that's available, that we can make that happen. That's what the consumer expects today in today's market, right? That one-click Amazon experience, right? That Uber experience. And most realtors, they cannot get anywhere near. Oh, I can show you on Monday next week, right? When you look at their calendar, it's like, but they go move on to the next guy. Like, that's why we're gonna beat you every day of the week if that's how you operate. So,
right.
So that's the crux of kind of where it all started. And so what that's evolved into now is, I mean, we have about 80 agents here on the Big Island. We have like 17 over on Maui. We have 5 in Oahu. We just started an expansion team in California. So all in all, we have about 115 agents across 2 states at this point. And part of it is due to a business model that is non-restrictive, because the traditional real estate business model, if you're at a Coldwell Banker or a Century 21 or Keller Williams, like you have to operate inside of your market center. You cannot go and operate in somebody else's market center. So even if you have the big dream to expand, the business model you're in will stop you from doing that. And so then you have to reevaluate, are you in the right place? But that's how it's been. And it started with just the culture of paying it forward. When we started, we helped everybody on a small basis, and then when another person joined, everybody that was already helped felt like they had to help that person, and that person got helped, and when somebody else joined, so it's just snowballed into this thing where it's an amazing collaborative culture that, again, wasn't by design, but just kind of happened by good energy and good like-minded people, where people are overwhelmed. Like, they finally come over to the team, and they're like, wow, I cannot believe how people are, the mindset of abundance and collaboration. Everybody wants to help. She's like, I've been told by this agent, like, this kind of stuff that hurts my heart, like that the first broker told them, if you like lock your computer before you leave, because people are going to log in and like steal your clients. And I'm like, wow, like that's what's taught in offices. Like, that's crazy. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
wild.
So
yeah,
so
that's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's kind of what the team looks like. It's what that ends up evolving into, I don't know. Luckily, one of the big blessings is I got my wife to quit teaching. She was a teacher for like 16 years, and she joined us as kind of admin operational support like a year and a half ago. That's really skyrocketed what we do, because that's not my forte. I'm not super strong in the admin aspect. But yeah, that's what the team looks like today, and it's just, I mean, growing every single day. There's no end in sight at this point. So there's
so much.
Let's go. Dig into that. Dig into that.
There's so much to unpack there. First of all, that's super inspiring. It's proof that if you're leading from the front and with the right culture and mindset and heart set, that you'll attract a tribe. You know what I mean? And you'll attract people that, like you said, are like-minded, and you can create more of an impact.
That's a super important point too, right? Is people ask, like, how do you recruit people? And the answer is we don't. Like, I have not recruited one person. Like, this is 100% self-selection. Like, people have seen what we're doing, have had a positive interaction with somebody in our team, and says, hey, what's going on over there? And they're like, can we join too? And it's like, yep. And so that's been made it really, really easy. Is the right only people swimming towards the boat get on.
No,
you
totally.
attract the right people. You attract the people.
You're carrying your energy with you wherever you go, into every interaction, and that energy is going to attract very similar or the same type of energy. So like, that's something to note with every interaction that you have, is like, you are your brand. You are carrying you are your business card. So I love that. It also sounds like you read the book Who Not How. I could be wrong, but that changed the game for us. Was that, if you think that you can do everything yourself, you're totally wrong, and you will never truly grow and reach your full potential if you are a solopreneur. If you're truly an entrepreneur, you are going to outsource and delegate to people that can do that job 10 times better than you can. And when we started doing that, that's when our business truly transformed. We do not have 100-something agents, but but we have a solid team over here. So
I think that's hard, though. That's hard for entrepreneurs, because we have egos. Everybody has egos, and they think that
their way is the best way.
Their way is the best way, or they are gonna be able to. Nobody can do it as good as they can do it. You know what I mean? Like you said, but I mean, hard facts are there's people that are a lot better at things than you, certain things, you know what I mean? And it's our job as the leader and the driver to find those people and let those people thrive in their expertise. You know what I mean? And if you build a team around that, and then you build the culture into it and you do it the right way, that's how you're going to succeed. So,
well, and it's like everything has every task has a dollar amount associated with it. And if you as an entrepreneur are wearing all of those hats and you're having all of those wages attached, you are weighed down and you are not in the seat or the role that literally is where you need to be to move the needle forward. So you have to take all that weight off of you and be like, how much is my time worth? Because if I'm not in the position that I'm supposed to be, the business is going to fail. Do you know what I mean? So it's like once you figure that out and you shift your mindset to be like, this is a task that someone else can do because I need to be over here and up here, you'll flourish. And we had to learn that too.
It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable spending money on other things, but that's something that I always found. I love to be uncomfortable when it comes to money. To me, every time you spend money on something, you hire somebody and it makes you uncomfortable, it's going to force you to do the thing to make more. And then the return is exponential, right? So you cannot let that fear of finances hold you back.
That's so
100%.
true, dude. That's so true. And I think once you start making money, and if you don't have a good relationship with money, it can be very hard to hire and to delegate and to spend money on your business. I'm speaking from firsthand experience. You know what I mean? But it's true. It takes money to make money.
My direct example of that is when the interest rate started going up of June of last year. I told the team, I'm like, you guys, the winter is coming. Things are going to get hard. You're going to have everybody singing doom and gloom. We're doubling down. I'm opening another office. We're going to spend more money on advertising. Like, we're going all in, and we are not participating. And we didn't. Like, I mean, we outperformed the second half of last year. We did better than the first half, and everybody else like stuck their head in the sand, you know. But it's all mindset, and it's like, and again, leading from the front. There was a couple of lean months that it was super uncomfortable, but just gotta have the faith. You know, I knew the work was being put in, and we made it through. So, and then we hit this year with momentum.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's dope. And then the last thing I wanted to say was that scarcity competitive culture, it transcends over here into the investor space of real estate, because when we first started, if anything, it might be a little bit more cutthroat. When we first
nobody gonna tell you anything.
It was very close to the chest.
No,
they're
bro.
gonna tell you,
No way.
they'll steal your deals. They're not gonna tell you any information. Like, you can't go to meetups or networking events unless you've done deals. Like, it was rough, dude, when we first started. We even had people tell us, like, don't do it, don't get into investing. And so when we finally like got traction and we had proof of concept and we started having some success, we said, let's create Deals in Aloha and let's do a meetup where everyone is invited, and we're curating a culture of collaboration and community and aloha, because it didn't exist when we first started. So we're like, I want to do the opposite of how we were treated and how our experience was. I don't want any other new investors to feel that way. So
I love that. If it doesn't exist, create it.
Yeah, big time.
Right? If it doesn't exist, create
100%.
it.
100%.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let me ask you this. Did you always have like a dream to have this much, like what you have now? Or is this just like you have your head down and it's just it's just happening? It's just organically happening. Or maybe it's a mix of both.
I think the best way to answer that, and this is more philosophical, right? But this is like solid parenting advice, is my mom, every day that I could remember when she put us to bed, she told us we were the best, my brother and I. Like, that was like no context, just like, love you, you're the best. Like, and I just have come to believe that has brainwashed me to, and no matter what I did in life, like, I always just wanted to be the best, right? Just super competitive, like whatever it was, playing sports in school, whatever it was, I always wanted to be the best. And so that's a driver of this whole thing, is like, I never really had, I remember looking when I first started, like the top 100 realtor list and stuff like that, and thinking like, I'll be on that list one day. And so that's a piece of it, is just pure competitiveness, which I think is probably not a bad thing. But that's definitely what I've found over the last few years. and why I've transitioned into the position that I've transitioned into is that I get way more satisfaction out of helping people change their lives and their families' lives than like selling houses, right? Selling houses is a big thing. You can make somebody's dreams come true by becoming a homeowner and stuff. But if I can help 100 realtors, help 10 people each, right? I mean, the impact is exponential in doing that. And that's been something that's been super satisfying over the last few years is just, I'm a much better coach, mentor, trainer than I am a real estate broker. I'm a competent real estate broker. There's plenty of competent real estate brokers out there, but I think I'm better at helping people believe in themselves. That's one thing we talked about earlier. I found that sometimes I'm the first person somebody's ever heard tell them that, like, I believe in you, like you can do this, right? Like their whole life, like people have been doubting them and telling them they don't can, or they're not smart enough, or whatever it is. And it's amazing how simple and small that is, but how life-changing it can be for folks. And so I never take that for granted. I never just had a call with an agent yesterday who was kind of having a hard time and hasn't been showing up, and she like called to apologize, and I'm like, there's nothing to apologize about. That's all in the past. Let's go. That starts today. You can do this. And she was like, she couldn't believe that was the response. She expected like like a scolding response, and I'm like, there's none of that here. It's none of that here, because it's not helpful.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
totally. Yeah, that's so crazy. So for us, when we got started, we were in need of like the money, right? Like we weren't making enough money to survive, and we were in debt, and like that was what we saw, and that was kind of the goal. Like we need to claw ourselves out. But what we very quickly realized is that money comes as a byproduct of what we do, and it's a tool for what we do. When we got to the point where it was no longer about survival for us, we had bought some properties, we have some passive income coming in, we can now live off of that passive income. The money you will always chase if that's what you're chasing, right? And that money goalpost gets pushed farther and farther out. And while it's getting pushed farther and farther out, you're not fulfilled. You're not happy. You might get to some places, but longevity-wise and sustainability is not there, right? There has to be another driving factor. And Tristyn and I found that driving factor to be that what you were just talking about, the impact that we have on other people's lives to then go and do that for their families and build portfolios for them, their families. And we call it emotional income. So there's emotional income that is really the driver. But you know what the craziest thing is that when you are coming from that place, the money comes exponentially. Mm-hmm. It's just what happens in the universe. You know what I mean? But that thing right there is what can create a sustainable business that does grow the way that it has. You know what I mean? So yeah, we're so aligned on a lot of things.
That's
Totally.
huge in
Really
the brokerage space, right? Is like if somebody comes and the first thing they ask about is the money situation, right? The compensation splits and all that kind of stuff. I know you're not the right fit, right? Because if you come for the money, you'll leave for the money, right? So if you come in for the culture, the collaboration, the community that we provide, the money not gonna matter because you gonna make them guaranteed, right? So that's a big filter for me.
Yeah.
I love that. So I want to ask you, I mean, you've been doing this for a minute. You've had a lot of success. You've built this amazing team. What does the next 5 years look like for you? Like, where are you trying to grow to?
What I always looking to duplicate and leverage. So we're in a season now of finding leaders that want to do what we've done, right? And so the dream would be, the vision for 5 years from now is to have this duplicated 5, 6, 7, 8 times over in other markets, other places on each island. And so that's really a focus I've been looking at is developing leaders, right? The number one job of a leader is to make more leaders if you want to continue to grow and scale. And so that's a big one. What it personally looks like for me, I'm not super sure because I'm not really good at like figuring out what I'm gonna be doing I had no idea what I was gonna be doing 5 years ago or 5 years before that. So I just want to continue to live life to its fullest extent, enjoy life. Whatever. I think work entails to get there is fine. But I know what we've done and what we've built can be duplicated with the right people kind of anywhere really in the country or the world. And so that's what we're focused on doing right now is just growing leaders in other places.
Yeah, I love that. And dude, you'll totally do that and you'll crush wherever you go.
I have a more granular question, and it's kind of about, this big shift in the market, because I mean, I think everybody was affected, but there are like some real general statements that kind of get thrown out about what is happening in the real estate market. And for our experience, every single little sub-market has been very, very different, right? Like there's some areas on Oahu, like the west side, Eva Beach, where we've seen some decline in prices. We've seen longer days on market, and all of that stuff has been heavily affected by interest rates. But there are other little submarkets that we're in, like in Kailua, Kaneohe, Hawaii Kai, where we're still selling houses in the first week. They're still going above ask, and prices are still rising. So I want you to just kind of explain what you're seeing in your specific market. And I know you talked a little bit about how you guys have been thriving in it, but just like what are you seeing there?
So I like to put everything into context and look at the big picture. So if you compare this year versus the last 2 years, it looks really bad, right? Like Big Island, we had over 7,000 sales in 2021. This year, we're on track to maybe do 5,000. So you can look at that as a huge reduction. But if you go back to 2017, 18, 19, that's what we did, 5,000. It's a totally normal market, right? We were in a completely inflated unicorn market the last couple of years. And so if that's what you're going to set as your baseline, it's going to give you a really warped perspective and mindset of what's realistic. And so I tell agents this all the time, total addressable market, right? You have to understand if you this is not one scarce market. I mean, yes, get plenty of real estate agents and, only so many number of deals. But even if you look on the Big Island, just in our small market on the Big Island, if there's 5,000 transactions, that's 10,000 sides that you can be a part of, right? Why can't you have 25 or 30 of those, right? I mean, like, when people ask me like, hey, what's the big hairy audacious goal? I want to own 10% of the transactions on the Big Island, like 1,000 sides. That's only 10%. I mean, it's not that much,
that's
right?
Only 10%. That's choke,
right?
Yeah.
So I don't think it's we're just going back to where we were a couple of years ago. I bought my first house in 2004, and I paid 6.5% interest and thought that was like amazing, right? And so it's all about perspective. It's all about perspective. And the big thing I think going forward for anybody in business is like you just cannot let off the gas pedal on the fundamentals. I think that's what a lot of people did is in the 2 busy years when deals were falling from the sky. People they weren't doing the things that you got to do to sustain a long-term business and just continue to advertise, continue to provide value. Like you guys are saying, like my biggest probably driver of business success is just putting out free value, right? Like, I mean, social media, YouTube, I mean, all that stuff. I mean, agent tips, like as much free value as I can put out into the world, I do. And it's amazing how much of that comes back just when you don't even expect it, or from people that like, here's a granular practical thing that's happening right now is the first 6 months of this year when things got hard, agents went and got regular jobs, right? So their past clients who potentially could be their future clients stopped hearing from them, stopped seeing them show up, heard that they're a waitress again or whatever, but they never stopped hearing from us, right? And so who is their agent going to be going forward when their other agent has faded away? And it's like when you don't do the things when you're busy to continue to build systems and processes to continue to build your business, that's when you're going to have something that's unsustainable. And that's what we're seeing. So that's just really what I try and train and teach on is never mind the here and the now, right? I mean, whatever the market's doing is fine. Just do the fundamentals, build relationships, whatever that looks like, because that's different to everybody. Some people it's social media, some people it's doing pop buys and doing client parties or whatever that is. But you have to figure out exactly what your niche is, what is the thing that you're going to do, and focus on that thing and stick to it and be consistent.
So true.
Dude,
I feel like that changed the game for us when we joined a mentorship, and they taught us that we are actually a sales and marketing company, and real estate is a byproduct of that. And so once we understood that, it changed everything for us. And what a lot of people don't understand is like you're going to do a lot of work and consistently show up for months and months and months and not get any deals.
Yep.
Nothing. But then you're going to give up, but your deal was right at that next week or right at that next month. And then what we found is we did that for months. No deals. We got our first deal, and then all the deals, all the hard work we put in for all these months of nothing, they just started coming because our pipeline was full.
Yep. Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's like people just give up too soon.
Real estate. I always tell people in real estate, as a real estate agent, 90% of your time is wasted, but the 10% that's not pays really, really good. So if you don't put in the 9 hours to get paid on the 10th one, then you're never going to get paid on the 10th one. If you don't show the 9 houses that your buyer doesn't buy, you never get to the 10th house. If you don't go on the 9 listing appointments, you never get that one listing. So it's a somewhat of a numbers game. It's a contact sport, but that's exactly it. Is people, I've had agents start and they're like, oh, I showed houses for 2 weeks and nobody ever bought anything. And then the third week they get 3 escrows. It's like, but you got to do the 2 weeks where you felt like you wasted your time before you can get to the third week. So that's a big one. Is the delayed gratification, right? Man, humans, we get hard time with delayed gratification. So.
Well,
especially in this
day and age with social media and all the technology. I mean, I think when we were growing up, it was definitely still it's definitely still a thing, but nowadays, man, dude, we're conditioned to get everything right now from right out of the womb. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's definitely an uphill battle for a lot of people. Instant gratification and entitlement. Those are the things, you know what I mean? But yeah,
I couldn't agree more. Okay, so what's the biggest challenge you've had to overcome so far in your real estate career? Biggest challenge
for me, it's really been just managing change and managing growth, because it's very easy to get into what's comfortable and continue to do it. And so that's been a rapid fire thing the last couple of years, is when you go from like 9 agents to 25 to 50 to 100, and then now we're definitely on track to end the year probably in the 150 to 200 range on the team. What worked for you at 10 is not going to work for you at 100, and what works at 100 may not work at 200. And so I guess avoiding comfort is something that I very much focused on and can be a challenge. For me personally, something that I struggle with recently is with growth. I mean, it all sounds good. It sounds great. But one of the things that I do actually enjoy in life is really knowing my people, right? And that gets harder. The bigger things get, it's harder to be as engaged, knowing what their kids are doing and what their pets' names are and stuff like that. Like that stuff, those relationships are important. And that's something that is, it gets harder and harder as things grow. And I've been really thinking about that and struggling with that lately. But my wife put on my calendar 2 hours a week on 2 different days to just randomly call people and check in on them and ask those questions. So it's not a contractual thing, or it's not a business thing. And so that's one thing, one step we're doing to solve that or address that is just putting time in the calendar to make it happen. So.
Yeah, that's so cool. I do, and you've brought this up a couple times about like being uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And how important that is. And I think that's another one of the things we're very conditioned as human beings to run away from uncomfortability, right? Like we try and go the opposite direction. Something gets hard, something gets uncomfortable. Oh, we don't want to go over there. It's like a survival thing, right?
Everything. Here's a great saying.
A
great saying is everything you want in life is 1% outside your comfort zone and 100% inside your accountability zone. So
yes, love that. Yeah, it's so crazy because now, I mean, I use uncomfortable situations as a gauge for what I should be leaning into. You know what I mean? And I think that is a skill that you have to kind of nurture. But when I know something is uncomfortable, something's hard, something is difficult, that on the other side of that is growth. You know what I mean? And I think you have to be able to condition yourself to force yourself to put yourself in those types of situations, or when you find yourself in those situations, lean into that. That's where you're really truly going to grow.
And that's where true self-confidence comes from. Right? Self-confidence doesn't come from somebody patting you on the back. It comes from doing something freaking hard that scared you, that you got through, and now you believe in yourself that you can do it again.
Exactly.
Love that.
I always say that's where the character is built. Character is built in discomfort, in stress, in the dark places. And that's really the character that you build in those moments is what's going to get you forward. So I love that. Now flip it. What's the biggest triumph or the biggest success you've had in your career so far?
I so don't dwell on that stuff. It's like, you know,
It's an entrepreneur problem. We don't celebrate the wins.
yeah, you know, Tim Grover, you know, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade's coach, in the book Winning says that the greatest winners have the shortest memories, right? Because you have to forget about the missed shot quickly, and then you got to forget about the championship quickly and start working towards the next one. And so, maybe I definitely think, and my mom has always said this about me, like I'm very much a live in the moment kind of person, and so I don't dwell a lot in the past. And so when there's big successes and stuff, I mean, we celebrate them, we enjoy them, but yeah, I'm always trying to just move forward and kind of enjoy what we have now, live in the present, you know, because there's so much to be grateful for. And yeah, so that's a good one. I gotta think about that. That's a good question. Nobody ever asked me that.
I know.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
all right. Well,
I mean, I think,
I'm gonna ask
I mean, definitely
you,
from the
Exie.
real estate side, I'll say this, you know, and here's just a like little life changing stories. In 2019, when I came over to this company, I went to a conference which I was uncomfortable to do. It was in Vegas. I had to pay a couple grand for the flights and the hotel and everything, and I wasn't in a position where I had like a ton of disposable income. But a guy who is my good friend now reached out to me, who was above me in the company in California. He said, "You got to come to this thing." And I went to this thing, and I saw people that were selling like, you know, 500, 1,000 homes a year, and they were just collaborating, sharing all of their information, how they did it, roadmaps and how they did it. And I looked at these guys and I was like, brah, if they can do it, I can do it. Like, this is like, they're not know any smarter than me.
Yep.
And so that
Right.
was the spark that kind of started the journey when I came back. And so now our company, 88,000 agents across the country, there's a leaderboard on it that has like all of the top agents and all of the top teams. And, you know, there's thousands of teams in the company. And our team, our little team in Hawaii is not only number 1 in Hawaii, but we're like number 10 in the entire nation. And that list of people are the people that
That's
I
so
looked
cool.
up to at 2019, and I was like, you know, I can be like these guys, and like we're there, you know. And I was like, that's a huge thing for me, is just that I share with agents all the time, is like, you got to have that intention and that goal. But and it doesn't take long. It's crazy. It's mind-blowing to me. I just had a guy ask me about it the other day at a conference I was at 3 weeks ago, and he had me pull it up and look at it. This is when I realized it, and he's like, you see the company that you're in? He's like, and you did that in 4 years. He's like, that's a big deal. You got to be proud of that. So yeah, that's something recently that I've been focused on.
Good.
Love that.
I'm glad I asked you that question because it made you reflect on that. That's massive, dude. That's a huge win. That's something to be super proud about.
Especially because we're from Hawaii, in the middle of the, you know, we're not in LA, we're not in, you know, San Antonio, we're not in Chicago, you know, with millions of people. I mean, you know, so we're little.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, there's something special about local people doing like amazing things. Because you said it at the beginning, at the top of the episode, of like, there's so much talent here. There's so much love here. There's so much culture and richness, and our people are beautiful. And so it's like, we want to put Hawaii on the map in like the most amazing ways. And you're doing that. So like, huge props.
And thank you guys for showcasing that. It's huge. Nobody's doing that.
Yeah, for sure. So last question is, if you could go back, well, I have 2 questions. If you could go back to the beginning, what was one thing that you would do differently, if anything?
Back to the beginning and do differently. I don't think there's that much, because you don't know what you don't know at the time. But one of the things that I did do in the beginning that I highly recommend to all business owners, you know, not just realtors, is that for whatever reason, I was lucky. I always kind of thought about building for where I wanted to be and not where I was. And I use really simple examples of this, right? Like, I started paying $15 a month for a QuickBooks account when I had no money. Like, I had nothing to account for, right? Because I just knew I needed one accounting system. That has now evolved into, I get on CPA and I pay hundreds of dollars to a month to manage my money, right? But because we started with that, it started somewhere, and I had some structure in place. I started early on. I was neurotic about emails. Every single email I could get my hand on, I put into a database, because I knew email was gold. And today, that's a database of over 45,000 people that I communicate with on a daily basis, or on a weekly basis, right? And so I mean,
Yep.
those are the things when I started, I did right. I didn't know how big it was going to get, but I did those things. I was lucky to kind of have the instincts to do those things right, because so many times people start and they're like, oh, I'm not there yet. I don't need to do that yet. Oh, that's not worth spending money on or whatever. But you cannot think about where you are. Where are you going? You might not even know how big it's going to be, but if you got to start building for where you're going, no matter where you're at. And that's, in the beginning, was a huge contributor to where we're at today.
Yeah, I love that. I forget where I heard it, but it was probably in one of the coaching programs that we've done. It was like, you have to act and present yourself and think in a manner as if you're already at the end of the road. Like you already have achieved that goal. You know what I mean? You can't, if you're acting differently, it's almost like you're going to trick your brain to believe you're
100%.
already there. And once your brain believes you're there, you will take every
another
action
actionable
to get there.
item, right,
So
is
I love
GE
that.
tax, right? If you're any type of business owner, you got to pay GE tax. And I tell people, they're like, oh, well, should I file yearly, quarterly, semi-annually, whatever? I'm like, you file monthly. Even if you file 0, you need to look every single month. If the number is 0, you better fix that for the next month, right? But if you put it off for a quarter and then a quarter is 0, now you get 3 months of 0, right? So like that kind of stuff is like, you got to act like I'm going to be making enough money to file monthly. So just start now, even when it's 0.
Yeah.
Love that.
I love that. I love that. Okay. Last question is, what impact do you hope to leave with the audience? And our audience is majority local people. So what impact do you hope to leave with the audience?
So I recently heard Ed Milet at a conference talk about the power of one more, right? And there's a lot of different examples of that. But one of the things that he said is are you going to be the one person that impacts generations of your family, right? Because it only takes one. And so I really took that to heart, and that's a decision that we all got to make, right? Are you just going to be another one, or are you going to be the one? And that's something that if you want to be the one and you want to impact not just your kids or your kids' kids, but, you know, I'm trying to build a legacy that will impact generations of my family, and not just my family, but my community. And so, you know, you got to make that decision, and then you got to decide what are the actions you're going to take to do that. But everybody has the potential to do that in whatever big or small way you decide. Are you going to be the one?
Yeah.
Dude,
right.
Love that.
And on that episode, just drop the mic. We are done. Dude, thank you so much for sharing your story. It was super inspiring to me. You filled my cup today. Where can people find you?
Probably the easiest way nowadays is Kona Broker on Instagram, but I'm the only Dylan Nonaka in the whole world. So if you type it into Google, there's tons of search results. So it's easy having a unique name. Yeah.
There you go.
Unfortunately, my son has the same name, so now he's gonna have to deal with all my SEO when he gets older. But
well, that's my problem. That's my problem with my dad and Kamohai. I haven't met any other Kamohais, but I'm a junior, so whenever anyone puts it in, my dad pops up because he's done some pretty cool things here. But anyway, one last thing on that though is if you reach out, this is what I've been hitting this hard lately. 8 weeks ago, I made a decision that I want to help as many people as I can, right? So don't look at me as like, oh, you're so busy and no more time. If you reach out, I'll send you my calendar. You can book 30 minutes. I'll talk to you about whatever you want, life, business, coaching. So that's available. Use that. I mean, that's one of the things that we don't do in life is there's people who are doing well want to give back. The good ones do anyways. And if you don't leverage those people for their experiences and their skills and their knowledge, I do it all the time and I wouldn't be here without it. And so I feel like I have a moral responsibility to give that back. So if you reach out, just DM me on Instagram. I'll send you back the link or anywhere on social media. I'll get back to you. But if you want to have a conversation directly, I'm happy to do that.
Love that. So the Kona Broker on Instagram. Hit him up.
Yeah. So thank you so much. I feel like this is just the beginning of a relationship. Well, there's some collaboration happening in the future. For sure. Yeah. Like there's so many things that we want to do. And we align in so many ways. So yeah, we'll be connecting. And I got some ideas for some really had fun
big
today.
folks for you guys to interview. So I'll shoot you guys an email later with some names.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, please shoot them over.
Please.
Would love to talk story. But thank you so much. This was so fun.
Thank you guys for having me. This is awesome. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Shoots.
Peace out.
I'm blowing up.